What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Marriage and Medicine. So we are continuing our financial residency book review. Today we are on chapter 6, which is all about the different type of insurances. Doesn't sound very sexy, but it is a necessary part. Being a physician, you need all of these insurances for sure.
So the insurances they cover that you specifically need would be disability, term, auto, and umbrella insurance. So disability insurance, of course, is just insurance in the event that you become disabled and you can no longer work at whatever your job is. So it's not just important for physicians, it's important for literally any job you have, but especially for physicians just because you tend to make more money, and so that means usually your lifestyle might be a little bit more than what it normally is for other people. So you want to have enough disability insurance that it would be able to cover your monthly expenses in the event that you can no longer work. So we're not talking about like covering going out to eat or covering shopping trips. We're just talking about your basic bills that you have every month. You want enough insurance to cover those things to live off of for the rest of your life. Most jobs do typically offer you a disability insurance. The only issue is that it's usually not enough to cover your monthly expenses. So it's kind of recommended that you do theirs, but then you also get your own personal one as well. So that together, the two would be able to cover all of the expenses that you need to pay for in the event that you can no longer work anymore. Especially if you are a one-income family like we are, where I stay at home and TJ is the one who is working. If he becomes disabled, God forbid, he needs to have enough insurance that we could both, well, our whole family could live off of that amount of money that he's getting to cover all of our monthly expenses that we have.
One other thing to think about when it comes to disability insurance is the reason, like a lot of times you get it as part of the benefit package, as Jasmine was saying, but the issue is you may go from one place to another. You may not stay in that same job. And if you go from one job to another, that disability package is not going to go with you. So you want your own independent disability package. Main reason is if you are relying on the one group's disability insurance and you go to another job and you're like, well, now I have to get my own disability insurance. Well, at that point, you're likely a couple years older. Maybe you have some kind of disability at this point, like a new existing or pre-existing health condition at that time. Your payment for your disability insurance is going to skyrocket. So the best time to get it is when you are at your youngest, and also when you can afford it, because you can always increase the amount of coverage that you have going from residency to attending, and so that is what is recommended.
I think it's the same like that with life insurance too. The older or the longer you wait to get it, the more expensive it tends to become. So it's like if you get it while you're younger and healthier, typically is a little bit cheaper for you than if you're like mid-50s and you're like, you might still be healthy, but it's just going to be expensive. So statistically, women are more likely to become disabled than men are. So for disability insurance, women are going to experience a little bit more of expensive insurance, unfortunately. But on the other hand, men tend to die earlier than women do. So for men, getting life insurance or term insurance, it's going to be more expensive for them when it comes to do that than it will be for women. Even if you both make the same amount of money and you have the same exact job title at the same exact hospital, that's not going to make any difference. Unfortunately, there's still going to be expensive for one than it might be for the other. So it's best if you can to get disability insurance while you're in residency, but that's probably not financially possible. So if you can get it, it's great, but if you can't, don't stress about it too much. The main reason they just say to get it during residency is because once you become an attending and you go to look for your jobs, some jobs might not offer great rates at that point, and so it's better to kind of lock it in ahead of time to get a better rate.
Yeah, and on top of that, you have no idea when you're going to become disabled, if that's going to occur. It may become like when you're an intern, you may be in an accident and now you're disabled and now you're stuck, unfortunately. So the earlier you can get it, definitely the better. For us, we ended up getting it right as I was graduating. I believe like right after I graduated, because I think there's like a 3 to 6 month grace period where you'll still get resident rates, even though you're technically an attending at that time. So we went ahead and took advantage of that and locked in good disability insurance at that time. The next very important insurance is term life insurance. And so the way that you want to think about this is if you have anybody that is relying on your income and you were to die the next day, you want to make sure that they are taken care of. If you're by yourself, you're single, you don't have anybody relying on your income, maybe you don't need term insurance at that time. But if you are married, you have kids, that is not the case. You definitely want to have some. The good thing is term life insurance is fairly cheap when you're kind of comparing that to like disability insurance or some of the other insurances. And so you can definitely get a lot of term insurance for kind of a decent monthly price. And so the most important thing is when you're thinking about how much you need, recommendation is to take your salary and multiply it by 10 is kind of what they recommend in many situations. And so think about how much that would be for yourself, and then adjust it as needed. You may feel like that may not be enough and you just want to get more just because you want to be more protected. That's perfectly fine as well. One thing that you want to look out for as physicians, as residents, one thing is people are going to try to sell you whole life insurance. There's a very small proportion of people who are going to actually benefit from having whole life insurance compared to term life insurance. Whole life insurance is much more expensive. You're going to likely not even really get as much benefit as you would with term life insurance. And so as a consensus statement, I would say term life insurance is the best insurance for the majority of individuals.
Moving into auto insurance, so this is insurance for your car. They were talking about in the book that like everybody needs auto insurance, but physicians need more auto insurance, which I thought was funny. But basically, they're just saying because if you're a physician or if you're someone who is married to a physician and let's say you get in an accident, once people find that out, they kind of try to take advantage of that.
Falling out the car, flopping.
They like shared a story of this woman that it happened to, and she like got in an accident and was saying like, oh, I can't get a hold of my husband. He's working at the hospital and I need whatever. And the person was like, oh, my neck. Oh, whatever. Like, people really do that though. Like they will try to take advantage of you if they know that you make money. So it's just best. They recommend that for a physician or physician family that you max out your auto insurance as soon as you can. In residency, again, because of finances, you probably might not be able to do this. So it's just like get the basic coverage. But once you are an attending and you can afford to do so, it's best to go ahead at that point and max it out. And then they even recommend like every few years you can shop around and see which companies have better rates, because just because you went with someone at one point doesn't mean that over time they still have the best rate out there. There might be somebody out there who can give you more benefits for a better rate. So always just kind of keep up with that and check and look into it as time goes on.
Yeah. And if you get a better rate from somebody else, if you take that rate to the place that you're already working with, a lot of times they'll come down on their price to try to match it at least. They love your business. They want to keep it. And the last type of insurance that is talked about in this chapter is umbrella insurance. So it's also known as personal liability insurance. So this insurance is basically gap insurance for other insurance policies when they have already paid out all of their payments, basically. So if you get sued for $1 million and your other insurances only covers up to $750,000, it'll be that gap insurance that'll cover the $250,000 that you are still owing, basically. So it's definitely very important for physicians to have this type of coverage. Main reason is we have a lot of assets. Once you kind of get into your career a little bit, you get a lot of assets and you have a lot to protect secondary to that. And surprisingly, umbrella insurance really is not that expensive in comparison. So you definitely want to consider purchasing this as soon as possible once you become an attending in order to protect yourself in the most efficient way.
So that covers chapter 6. Will be our final chapter that we're covering in financial residency. It's not the final chapter of the book, just the final one that we wanted to share. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel so that you can get notified whenever future videos come out. And then you can also follow us on Instagram at Marriage and Medicine. But we will see you guys in the next video.